Welcome, everyone. As you see, the background is different than usual. We're broadcasting tonight from my personal dining room because we relinquished the shul to the Rebbitzin. Is having a big Avas Yisrael group downstairs. So so we're up here. We are dedicated by Baruch Ian and family, Lila Nishmas Estebas Yoni, Yaakov Chaim and Ava, Abram ben Shul HaKohen, Refuah Shlema for Baruch Shlomo ben Lina. We also learn, sponsored by Aaron Swade, for the Zecher Nishmas of Chana Bas Shmuel and Freda Bas Shol by Mark Frankel, Refuah Shlema for Miriam Sora Bas Tzipora and Chana Bas Gittel Esther by Ber Kolwasser, for what Hashem did for his family and for the Chayla Yisrael, for my Shver Avigdoraya ben Rivka, my Enikel, Yeled ben Chava, for Yudis Shendel, Yehudis Cyril Bas Miriam, and for Meir ben Chayesar. They should have a refuah shalema b'seich shar Chayla Yisrael. We welcome in Shimon Klein. It's good to see you, Shimon. We've been missing you. And Saba, A.B. Spry, Stephen Holtzman, Mel Zachter, Yisrael Fisher, Irving Fishbaum, Eddie Chazan, Berish Gesserman, Shalom Fogel, Marshall Castle, Michal, Nachman Chapler, Ruvain Pollack, Mordechai Sultan, Menachem Yamansky, Avram Shankman, Moshe Lehman, Rabbi Kranz, Naftali Jablin, Abe Arbach, Yitzi Muller, and Gedalia Engel just made it under the wire. Unbelievable how he does it. It's like he has me bugged. David Helfgott is joining us, and we have Elliot Goldstein, Richard Rosenzweig, two very fine Talmidim. Please, both Elliot Goldstein and Richard Rosenzweig, please come on our Zoom so we could share you with the rest of the Olam.
Please come on, I need you.
Yes, and Marshall desperately needs, he's on Bourbon Watch. And believe me, he needs it. You look at him. We have here in the house Reb Kramer, Reb Dalia Engel, Reb Baruch Ian, Reb Rich Lenner, and we are holding by Amalei Abayel of Yosef. Remember, we were talking about the borders of Bavel because we said, here comes. Now, there's people that are listening to me as we welcome in Dr. Block. Dr. Block is with us. Richard Rosenzweig did humor us by coming in, making a rare facial appearance. You were very handsome. You really should be comfortable with showing us, yourself more often. And here comes Pesach Ziegelman. Pesach Ziegelman is joining us as well. Elliot, you could come on also. Just go to zoomdaf.com. Zoomdaf.com. That's our Zoom family, as we have already 29 Zoomers this evening and coming. So if you remember, as we said, Bavel is considered to be a very miyuchas. And therefore it's important to know what are the borders of Bavel. We said the Euphrates is the western border of Bavel. Now, beyond the Euphrates, is that in Bavel too? So Amalei Abayel of Yosef Lahog Gisa Depras, all the way to the west of the Euphrates. Ad Heicha, how far does Bavel extend? Amalei, so Rav Yosef said to Abaya, Madatech, what are you asking me concerning Mishum Beiram? You want to know about the town of Beiram? Miyach say the Pumpadisa, the great pedigree of Pumpadisa, the finest pedigree of Pumpadisa, Beiram Nasve, marry into Beiram, so that shows that Beiram is Bavel proper, as we welcome in Dr. Guy. Says the Gemara, Amra Papa, Kimachloikis Liyuchasin. If you remember, we said, and when we learned Masechtas Gittin, that if you bring a get from overseas, from Chutzlarts, you have to say the formula b'fanai nichtav b'fanai nechtam. Before me it was written, before me it was signed. One of the reasons is because in Chutzlarts they're not bucky with Lishma. They're not Bekim with Lishma. Harrison Kletzel is arriving for our 30th Zoomer of the evening. we're going to give credit to Marshall for Gedalia and Baruch and Rich, who sometimes are on the thing. So that's 3 more, 33. So all he needs is a meager 17 people to get 6 shining bottles of Birdman. So let's go. Come on, Rabbi Yisai. Get more people here. Yisrael Fisher, talk to Brooklyn. It's mamish pikuach nefashis for Marshall. Really, it's you're in Muncie now, Berish. Work on Muncie. Eddie, you're traveling all over the world. Get some more Zoomers. Come on. Anyway, says the Gemara. So in Bavel we said there, since there are great yeshivas in Bavel, they know about Lishma. And therefore, since they know about Lishma, you don't have to say b'fanei nichtam or b'fanei nechtam. So are the borders that we said for Yichus the same borders of Bavel in regard to Gittin? So Rav Papa says yes. Rav Papa k'machloikis liYuchasin, just like there's an argument for Yuchasin, kach machloikis l'nin Gittin, the same argument about the parameters of how far Bavel extends apply to the din of b'fanei nechtam as well. Rabbi Yosef says that's not true. Machloikis liYuchasin. The machloikis is in regard to Yuchasin. Aval Gittin, but for Gittin, the din is everybody agrees that it extends ad arba tinyana de gishra until the second willow grouping by the bridge. Now that's referring to that's referring to which we said was the northern extension of the Pras, which is the western border. So he says it's till the second bunch of olive growths by the bridge of the Euphrates. Amar Rami bar Chama, Amar Rami bar Abba, Chavel Yama, the city of Chavel Yama, Tchelta de Bavel. Tchelis, of course, is the beauty of tzitzis. Chavel Yama is like the finest of Bavel. In other words, the people of the finest pedigree live there. Shunya v'Guvya and the suburbs or the hamlets of Shunya and Guvya in Chavel Yama, Tchelta de Chavel Yama is the cream of Chavel Yama. Ravina Amar, not just Shunya and Guvya, but also Tzitzura as well. Write this down, Marsha. You want to know your hamlets of Chavel Yama. Tani Rami Hachi, Chanan ben Pinchas Aimer. Chanan ben Pinchas tells us Chavel Yama is Tchelta de Bavel. That Chavel Yama is the creme de la creme of Bavel. It has the best yichas. The Guvya Tzura and Guvya, Shunya, Guvya, and Tzitzura, the hamlets of Shunya, Guvya, and Tzitzura are Tchelta de Chavel Yama. And by the way, all of this is important to know how makbid people were to marry into the best yichas. Yichas is a very big thing. People look at looks, which are important because the person has to be happy with who they're married to, and the ability to be able to a person to be able to have a job, so that they should be able to make a parnasa, because parnasa is important, because otherwise there's no shalom bayis. It's important that a person be a yarei shemayim, but yichus is a very big thing, because if there's good yichus, so that means that this family had a strong backbone of Yiddishkeit going back many generations. And that strength pulses in the blood. By bar mitzvahs, I talk to the bar mitzvah boy about what's in his blood. We know that there's such a thing as genetics. And what's in your blood is a very important thing. For example, in my blood, from my father's side, is Rabbanis. My father's grandfather was a Rav. His great-grandfather was a Rav. His great-great-grandfather was a Rav. His father would also have been a Rav, except that he had a profession and he had a younger brother that didn't, so he gave him over the Rabbanas. So there are things that are in a person's blood. Amar Papa, however, even though we said that Chavel Yama has shining pedigree, But unfortunately, today, kusim got mixed up into Chavel Yom. However, the Gemara tells us it's not so. V'loihi, it's not so. It's a who the boy minayu. He wanted to marry a woman from there. V'lo yavelahu, and they didn't give him the woman, and therefore it's not a papa. A papa would not be so petty, but somebody spread the rumor that the genealogy is not so good. Now, my Chavel Yama, could you tell us exactly what territory is Chavel Yama? Amra Papa Zu Pras de Bursi. That's a place known as Pras de Bursi. However, there was a man to Amalahu Anam in Shoit Meshat. I come from Shoit Meshat. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha al Raglav. So Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha got up on his feet. Amar Shoit Meshat Bein Hanaros Omedes. Shoit Meshat is in an area situated Bein Hanaros. Bein Hanaros, we will see, is a sterling place. Says the Gemara. The Chi Bein Hanaros Omedes my hobby. What does that mean? Now, Bein Hanaros could be mistaken to mean in between of the Euphrates and the Tigris, which is Bavel proper, but that would be a simple, because we said Bavel has good yichus. We'll see that Bein Hanaros refers to an area above the Euphrates, towards the north. Is that you? Somebody's phone making noise? Says the Gemara, just have to make sure that all my equipment is good. Aviament is joining us for our 30-second Zoomer of the evening. Says the Gemara,
it's not my fault. My phone's on silent.
I don't know.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting.
Maybe we're being bugged by the ladies downstairs.
Huh? It's not the camera, no. If it was the camera, I'd be in trouble. It could be somebody that's not muted on the thing.
Yeah.
You know, Mark snuck in without making a peep, you know. He snuck in. Don't worry, I saw you with the corner of my eye. I know. Who asked you? Anyway.
Rabbi, everybody's muted.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, it's probably Marshall anyway. So what is Bein Hanaros? Amar Abaye, Amar Rav Chama bar Ukra, Amar Rav Yosef bar Chanina. Rav Chama, Abaye said in the name of Rav Chama bar Ukra, in the name of Rav Yosef bar Chanina, Bein Hanaros, the area called Bein Hanaros, between the rivers, Harihi Kigoyla Liyuchsin. Now this means that it is like the diaspora, namely like Bavel, for Yuchsin. That means its yichus is good. V'heicha kaima, where is it situated? Amar Reb Yochanan mi'ihi dekira ula'el, above ihi dekira. Says the Gemara, but wait a second. We said V'amar Reb Yochanan an mabarta de Gizma, that on the north of the Euphrates, it's only good until the crossing of Gizma, and Dekira is higher than the crossing of Gizma, and the Bein Hanaros is even higher than Dekira. Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, you're right. Ritzua Nafka, you're right. After the crossing of Gizma, it's not Bavel anymore. But a strip went out to the area of Bein Hanaros, where Shoit Meshat is, and that is considered miyuchas. Amarav Ika Ba'avin Amarav Chananel Amarav. You see, by the way, you see how exact this is. When it came to yichus, they were exact. It's very important to marry into a good family. Amarav Iki Ba'avin Amarav Chananel Amarav. Chalozen Nihavanad. Sounds almost Hungarian. Chalozen Nihavanad, the place known as Chalozen Nihavanad, Harihi Kigoyla Liyuchsin. It has a pure yichus like Bavel. Amalei Abaye loy tetzisule. So Baya said, don't listen to Ravi Kiba Avin. It's because his brother died, and his wife fell to him from Chalos and Avanad, and that's why he's saying that it's good. So he said, what do you mean? I'm not saying it in my name. It's Rav Chanel's dictum. So Azul Shailu al Rav Chananel, they went and he asked Rav Chananel, so he said to them, it's true. Hachi Amarav, Chalaz in the Avanad, the place Chalaz in the Avanad, Arihiki Gaila Liyuchsin. It is, its genealogy is sterling, like the diaspora, meaning like Bavel. Or Pligi de Rav Abba Bar Kahana. And this is in opposition of Rav Abba Bar Kahana. What is going?
It's coming from there.
It's coming from where?
It's coming, what do you call it? The great blue yonder?
Everybody,
Coming from that area.
everybody is muted. It's funny. Funny. Where could that be coming from? That's really funny.
Could it be the Rebbitzon's phone?
No, the Rebbitzon's downstairs.
No, but should leave her phone upstairs.
No. All right, somebody is bugging us. Okay, somebody wants to know what the Rav does in the middle of the night. Says the Gemara. Look at Marshall's face.
What about the Gemara? Who was hiding under the other one's bed? What was that deal again?
Yeah. Pliga de Rav Abba Bar Kahana. This that we say that Chalozin Nihavanad is of sterling reputation. It's not like Rav Abba Bar Kahana. The Amar Rav Abba Bar Kahana, my dichsiv. What is this? Which it says, Vayinochem, and they camped. The pronunciations over here are really interesting. Vayanchem, and this is the Melech Ashur when he settled the 10 tribes, the Asar Shvatim. It says Vayanchem, and he settled them Bachlach, in Chlach uvechaver, Nahar Goizen v'orei Modoi. And the Gemara explains where these places are. Chlach zu Chalzain, Chaver zu Hadyav, Nahar Goizen zu Genezek, is Genezek, and Orei Modoi zu Chamodon v'chavroiseh. This is Chamdom and its suburbs. V'imre la zu Nihavanad v'chavroiseh. Nihavanad and its suburbs. So here we have both places that we've talked about, Chalozan and Nihavanad, and we said that the 10 tribes were put there. Now, my Chavroiseh, what do we mean? And its suburbs, Amar Shmuel, Krach Mushchi, Chuske, Verumke. The towns of Mushche, Chuske, and Rumke. Now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, V'kulan L'psul. And by saying that the 10 tribes were camped there, the 10 tribes would eventually, many of them would take Goyish women, and if you hold over Kachav Mabah Bas Yisrael Vlad Mamzer, they would be Mamzerin. Even if not, they would be Pogum, and therefore they're Kulon L'psil. So according to him, Chalozin and Nihavanad would not be good, would not be Kigoyl L'Yuchsa. Now the Gemara says, Kasol Kedaitach, that Mushche, Hainu Mishkane. That Mushche is the same thing as Mushkane. So the Gemara says, but V'amar Abchia B'Avanam Shmuel Mushkane Hari Kigoyl L'Yuchsa. That Mushkane is good, but you're telling me now that the 10 tribes got mixed in Mushke. Says the Gemara, it's no kasha. There's 2 different places. So Mushki is no good because it has the 10 tribes mixed in it. But Mushkini is good. And now we're going to learn from the Nevuah of Daniel. Daniel had very interesting prophecy as we welcome in Stephen Kornman and Ed Smith joining us on Facebook. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but David Helfgott is joining us on Kol HaLashon. I should tell you, Rabbi Isai, as we welcome in Mordechai Sultan for our 33rd Zoomer, and Marshall gets credit for 3 more, so that's 36, a meager 14 to Bourbon Heaven, Marshall. You have 2 weeks till we start Seder Nezikin, so, get your act together, put up signs all over Chicago. Mark will...
I got them all over the place.
Mark will help you in Philadelphia, and Shelley will help you in Marine Park, and Yisrael Fisher will help you in Brooklyn. We gotta get the word out, Rabbi Yisai. Come and join Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss's Daf 6th cycle. So I should know a little bit about what's going on. So anyway, I just want to say that the Mishnah Yomis I already did. It took 36 minutes, so I decided I'm not going to do it twice. That's Mishnah Aleph and Mishnah Beis. So it is on YouTube. It is on. It's not yet on Torah Anytime because it's still loading up. But it is also on Kol HaLashon. I did send out on our chat the diagrams. If anybody didn't get it and needs the diagrams, they could email me to rmmwsi@aol.com and you'll have the diagrams. The Gemara now tells us that in Daniel's vision, it says he saw another animal similar to a bear, vitlas ilon befuma, and there were 3 ribs in its mouth, bein shineha, between its teeth. Now that's a little bit of a contradiction of terminology, because it in its mouth means it swallowed it, between its teeth means it's out of it. Amar Reb Yochanan Zuch, we're going to see that the bear is a mashal for Persia that have many similarities. The Persians have many similarities to bears. So, Amar Reb Yochanan Zuch Chalaz and Hadaya v'Netzivin, that's Chalaz and Hadaya and Netzivin, Shepa'amim Boilasam, sometimes they're swallowed by the Persian Empire, or Pa'amim Poltasan, and sometimes they're not. We know that a lot of places in Europe, it depends what year it is, what it belongs to. Like for example, when my father was born in Salish, so at what point Salish was Czechoslovakia, another point Salish was the USSR. So it depends. You could, if you don't mind, you press the ice over there. You can give me ice. You can take water from there too. I don't care.
Take a bigger cup.
Yeah, there's a glass there. You'll see there's a thing of glasses when you come in to your left. You'll see there's glasses. The Gemara says, "Va'aru chivya achrei tinyana." There was over there another beast, a second one, damya l'dayv, similar to a bear. Tani Rabbi Yosef Eila Parsim. I told you this is a symbol of the Persian. She'oichlin v'shoisin kedayv. They eat and drink gluttonously like a bear, umesurvolin kedayv, they're very fleshy like a bear, umegadlan seir kedayv, they're very hairy like a bear, ve'einem menucha kedayv, and they're restless, they have no zitzfleish, they're restless like a bear. Ravasi kavichozi parsa derachiv, Ravami, when he saw a Persian that's riding, Amar hainu duva naida, that's a wandering bear. Amar Rebbe Lelevi. Now here the Gemara gives us some characteristics of different people. Amali Rebbe Lelevi. Her ani Parsim. Show me what the Persians are. Amalei, they're very mighty. The Gemara said if you remember that famous Gemara, we had the Gemara that says 10 measures of might came down to the world and 9 were taken by the Persians. Amalei, doimim l'chayola shel Beis David. They're similar to the warriors of Beis David in their might. Hareini chavrin, show me the fire worshippers. Doimim l'malachei Kabbalah. They're like the destructive angels. They're very ferocious. Thank you very much. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. Hareini Yishmaelim. It's very interesting that we should have this Gemara this week. It's in this week's Parsha that we learn all about Yishmael, that Yishmael is a Pera Adam, a wild person. Doimin l'seirim shel Beis HaKisei. They're like the demons of the Beis HaKisei. The demons are dressed in black, and they're, of course, attackers. and therefore they're similar to the demons of the bathroom. Hereini Talmidei Chacham shebebavel. Show me what the Babylonian Talmidei Chacham, the great academies of Sura, Nardo, and Pumpadisa, Doimen LaMalachi Asheris. They're similar to celestial angels. Ki Avinechan Afshe the Rebbe, when Rebbe was passing away, Amar, he made the following revelations. Humanya Ika Bavel. There's a suburb in Bavel called Humanya. You should know Kula Ammonoi. They're full of Ammonites. And of course, a male Ammoni, even if he's converted, cannot marry into Klal Yisrael.
This was like a secret identity?
Yes. Miskaria Ika Bavel. There's a place called Miskaria, Kulo de Mamzeri. It's full of Mamzerim. Birka Ika Bavel. There's a place of Birka in Bavel. In that town, Shnei Achim Yesh, there are two brothers, Shemachlifin Nishayseim, that used to switch their wives. And that means that they made Mamzerim. Shemachlifin Nishayseim Zed Lezed. They did wife swapping.
The house. What good does it do if we don't know who they are?
So then you have to suspect the whole area. Because then from those brothers married other people and went in. So there's Mamzerim in the area. Birsa de Satya Ika Bavel. There's a place, Birsa de Satya in Bavel. Hayoim Saru Me Achre Amakim. Today, they completely became apostates. They became completely heretics. See, initially, one time, the Apke Peri Bekabre B'Shabbos. So one time, their pond overflowed with fish on Shabbos, and they couldn't withstand it. And they went and they hunted on Shabbos, which of course is an Issa Doraisa. And Vishamtinu Rav Achab Rav Yashia, and Rav Achab Rav Yashia excommunicated them. And today, they completely renounced Hashem. Akra de Agma Ika Bavel. There's a fort of Agma in Bavel. You should know, Ada Bar Ava Yeshba. There is a tzaddik there that was born now. Hayoim Yoshi B'Cheker Shel Avram. Today he got his bris milah. Cheker Shel Avram means his bris milah. There is another pshat in this Gemara that today he passed away and is now in the bosom of Avram Avinu in Shemayim. Hayoim Noilid Rabbi Yehuda B'Bavel. Today, Rabbi Yehuda was born in Bavel. Now this is the idea that the Rebbeinu Shalom, when he takes away a tzaddik, he always brings a new tzaddik. He never leaves us without guidance. So, Damamar, Kishemeis Rebbe Kiva, when Rebbe Kiva died, Noilid Rebbe. The great Rebbe was born. Kishemeis Rebbe, when Rebbe died, Noilid Rebbe Yehuda. Rebbe Yehuda was born. Kishemeis Rebbe Yehuda, Noilid Rava, the great Rava was born. And Kishemeis Rava, Noilid Rav Ashi, one of the great editors of Shas. Lamedcha, to teach you, she'ain tzaddik nifta min ha'olam, a righteous gadol and leader of the people doesn't leave the world ad shenivet tzaddik k'maisa, until his replacement is born. Shenema v'zorach hashemesh uva hashemesh. When the sun sets, then the sun shines. Now, actually, kafsa shimsha shel Eli, before the son of Eli set, the great gadol adar Eli, Zarcha Shimsha Shel Shmuel Aramasi, Shmuel Aramasi, his successor, shone. Shenemar Venerally Kim Terem Yechpeh, and the lamp of Hashem, before it was put out, Vishmuel Sheichev, and Shmuel was lying. Now, we must point out, though, that there could be a time of poverty of leadership, because it says that when Rebbe Kiva died, Rebbe was born. So he had to wait for Rebbe to grow up. When Rebbe died, so Rebbe Yehuda was born. We had to wait for Rebbe Yehuda to grow up. So there could be a time where we're taka waiting. Tziva Hashem liYaakov svivav tzorav. Hashem instructed for Yaakov that around him will be his enemies. He'll be encircled with his adversaries. Today, we see that mamish in Eretz Yisrael, that we're surrounded by our adversaries. Mamish in a chokehold, surrounded by our adversaries. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Kigain humanya lefum nara, like humanya encircles pumnara. Humanya was we said that humanya had ammonim. It surrounded the Torah place of Pumnara. Vayhi kihi novi, when Yecheskel prophesied, and now we have a mysterious character. We're not sure if he's good or bad. Nobody ever said that about Marshall. Look at that. He's hiding. But Paltiyo ben Benayo, it says Vahikin Novi, as Yecheskel prophesied, Paltiyo ben Benayo mace. And Paltiyo ben Benayo died. Ve'epel al ponai, and Yecheskel said, I fell on my face. Ve'ezak kol gadol, and I cried out in a loud voice, Aha! Whoa! Hashem Elikim. Now the question is, why did he lament? One pshat is he lamented because a tzaddik died. Another pshat is he lamented that a rasha died in his bed an easy death. So it's really two completely different pshatim. So Rav Shmuel, it's a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. I should have said to you that I am honored that you were here in my house. I guess Saba thought it's small potatoes. He's in my house all the time, so what does he have to come for? Probably my mother isn't feeling so well. That's probably why he stayed home to be with her. But anyway, so the Gemara says it's a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Chad amal l'toiva. One said he lamented that he died because he's a good person. V'chad amal l'ra. Man amal l'toiva. The Gemara is going to show that Paltiyo ben Benayo did a good favor for Klal Yisrael. Kiha, the standard of Mashin, the baron of Mashin, Chasnei de Nebuchadnezzar. He was the son-in-law of Nebuchadnezzar. Shalachlei, and he complained. Shver, my father-in-law, Mikule Shvia the Isislach, you brought back all the prisoners of war. Come on, you didn't send us any to be our servants. So Yisrael. So Nebuchadnezzar wanted to send him some Jews. Now it's better for the Jews to be in the royal city with Nebuchadnezzar than to be by some vassals. So Amalei Paltiyo ben Benayo. So Paltiyo ben Benayo says, why should you part with the Jews that are chashiv? Ananda chashvina nekum ekamach, keep us in the royal city. V'avdin nezlu, and send the slaves there. V'amar Navi, and therefore Yecheskel said, Misha asa tova b'Yisrael, somebody who did good for Klal Yisrael and kept the people relatively safe in the royal city. Yamas b'chatzi, Yamas should die young. Paltiyo ben Benayo died young. Man damal l'ra, the one that says he was bad. Why was he bad? Dichsiv, because it says Vatovo osi el shar beis Hashem akadmaini, and he brought me in a vision to the gate of the temple to the east, hapoine kedema, facing the east. V'hine bepesach hashar, and by the opening of the gate were esem v'chamisha ish, there were 25 men. Ve'era b'seichen, and I saw amongst them as Yozniah ben Ezer, as Paltiyo ben Benayo. I saw Yozniah ben Ezer and Paltiyo ben Benayo, Sorei ha'am, v'ksiv, and it says, and we're not 100% sure that this is still talking about Paltiyo ben Benayo, but the pashtus of the pasuk is that it is. Vayovo isi al chotze beis Hashem apnimis, and he brought me into the inner courtyard of Hashem. V'hinei pesach heichal Hashem, and by the opening of the Kodesh, beino ulam u'bein hamizbech, in between the antechamber and the outer altar, ke'esrim chamisha ish, there were 25 brazen men, Achareim el Heichal Hashem, with their backsides to the Heichal Hashem, Upneim Kedema, facing the east, bowing down to the sun. Whoa. Now, if they were facing the east, then we know that their backs were to the Heichal on the west. Mimash Mishnema Upneim Kedema. Don't we know that the back is to the west? What do we learn from the fact that it says that their back was to the west? They pulled down their pants and defecated before Hashem. So then if that's about the Ben Yoda, he did. If that's about the Ben Benio, if he did such a atrocity, then how could he die in bed? Become a Navi Nisha Asa Yisrael. Whoever did such a heinous thing, Yomi Salmitasai, says the Gemara, Tistayim the Shmuel the Amalara. Let's prove that it was Shmuel that says Paltiyo ben Benyo was a bad guy. The Amar Rabbi Ba'avan Amar Shmuel, Mushkani Harihi Kigayla Liyuchsen. Mushkani is like Bavel, it's refined. Meishon Meishin, we're not concerned, not for slavery, not for mamzeris. The Kahanim that were there, we're not careful for marrying grushas. But if it's true that Paltiyo ben Benio was a good guy, and he told Nebuchadnezzar to send avodim to Meishin, instead of sending the Jews to Meishin, so then Meishin should be full of avodim. But Shmuel says that if Nebuchadnezzar released the servants to Meishan, then they went free. The Amar Amafkir Avdai, if the Yidden who owned these servants had to release them to go to Meishin, Yotzal L'Cheiris, they go free. And then they wouldn't make a bad pedigree. Shinema Kol Evet Ish Miknas Kesef, a servant who's purchased with money, Evet Ish, what it should just say Kol Evet Miknas Kesef. Because the din is, it's an Evet whether it's owned by a man or a woman. So Evet Ish, Relay Evet Isha, Ela Evet Sheesh Lo Rishus Rabbi Alav, if the Evet is under the jurisdiction of its master, Kori Evet. But if Nebuchadnezzar made the Jews release their slaves and send them to Meishan, Evet she'eina Rabbi Rishus Alav, if the master doesn't have control over him, eina Kori Evet. And therefore they would go free, and therefore they wouldn't make Meishan impure. That which we said, that all other aratzas are becheskas psul, except for Bavel and Eretz Yisrael, all other aratzas, you have to assume that the person is puzzled until you could prove his pedigree. That's the opinion of Rameir. All lands, you could assume a person is kosher unless you know a taint. Ameimar, pursuant to this, Ameimar shori leid Rav Huna bar Nasim leminsav itzis mechuzyosa. He permitted him to marry a woman from Chuzyosa. Amalei Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi said, "My daitech, what are you relying on?" And he say, you rely on what the Chacham say, that all lands are becheskes kashers. But the Academy of Kahana didn't teach this lenient opinion of the Chacham. And the Academy of Rav Papa didn't teach this lenient opinion. He says, I don't care. He didn't accept this argument. He heard from Rav Zvid of Narda the leniency that in other lands also, as long as there's no taint, you could marry the person b'cheskes kashus. Now the Gemara tells us something very exciting. We know that there's going to be great changes in the time of Mashiach. The Rambam says in the Pirush of Mishnayos, in the 10th parak of Sanhedrin, that at the time of Mashiach, people will live much longer. The Maharsha says in Daf Kufnan Aleph in Masechta Shabbos that at the time of Mashiach there'll be absolutely no poor Jew. There'll be great changes. So the Gemara tells us now, excitingly, Taner Rabbanan Mamzerei Unesine Tahirim L'Asad Lavai. The Mamzer and the Givonim will be purified in the future. Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Rameir Aimer ain't Tahirim. Rameir says, no, they won't. Amalei Rabbi Yossi, V'aloi Kvar Nema V'zarakti Aleichem Mayim Tahirim. In the future, we say this always in Slichas. V'zarakti Aleichem Mayim Tahirim. I will sprinkle upon you the pure waters, utahartem. Amalei Rameir, that doesn't mean genealogy. Kishuayim mikol tumos seichem, you'll be purified from impurity, mikol givulechem, and from idolatry. But v'loy min mamzeris, but not from mamzeris. Amalei Rabbi Yossi kishuayim atar eschem. When it says, I will purify you, have a omer af min mamzeris. He will remove the blemish of mamzeris. So the Gemara says, Bishloim el Reb Meir, hainu d'chsiv hayeshiv mamzer ba'ashtod, that a mamzer will live in Ashtod, even lost in Lava. El Reb Yossi, my vayeshiv mamzer ba'ashtod. Mamzer doesn't mean that, says Reb Yossi. Mamzer means that the people that were strangers initially, mamzer means people that were treated as mumzar, as blemished and strange, will now be settled. Targum Rav Yosef, like it says in the Targum of Rav Yosef on the text, Yosman Beis Yisrael l'roichson ba'ar Ehon, Klal Yisrael will dwell safely and securely in their land, David Damabal Nuchran, that they formerly appeared to be as strangers. Reb Yehuda Shmuel halacha k'Reb Yossi. The law is like Reb Yossi, that lost it lavai, mamzerim and givainim will be purified. Says Gemara, Amar Reb Yosef, Ilav Amar Reb Yehuda Shmuel halacha k'Reb Yossi. If he wouldn't have said the halacha is like Reb Yossi, having Osi Eliyahu, when Eliyahu came, heralding Mashiach, Eliyahu would come and mapik minon savrone kailarin. He would take hordes of people by the neck in iron collars away from Klal Yisrael, since they were mixed in mamzerim and nesinim. And thank God, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that Hashem will purify those la'asid lavai. We're going to stop here, Rabbi Isai. I want to remind you that we already did the Mishnah Yomis, and it is on YouTube already. It is on Facebook. It is on Kol HaLashon. I put on the chat the diagrams. Anybody wants the diagrams and they can't get it for whatever reason, I could email it to you. Just email a request to rmmwsi@aol.com. Again, Rabbi say it's already Tuesday night, and I did not have one sponsor for Parshas Lech Lecha. So if you would like to sponsor, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Chumash here tomorrow after the daf. Thank you very much for coming, and have a wonderful evening.